Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing good. It's time for some more Maison Alhambra fragrance reviews. Today I'm going to show you two more scents from the house of Maison Alhambra. The first one is called the Artist Number 1, and this one is cloning Frederic Malle's Portrait of a Lady, and the second one is called Fabulo Intense, and this one is cloning Tom Ford's Effin' Fabulous. I will start the video with the Artist Number 1. The fragrance comes packaged in a black colored box that has this red sleeve over the top. The bottle size here is 100 milliliters. The concentration is EDP. Once you remove the sleeve, you're greeted by the actual black bottle, and in order to get to the fragrance you need to slide this part out like this. And the production date of this bottle is September of 2022. And once you do that, you're greeted by the bottle, which looks like this. It's actually a very heavy bottle, has a very thick base. The cap is plastic and it's not a very snug fit, so it's not a secure pickup. And all in all, especially the bottle is really reminiscent to what you get with the original fragrance. And the whole packaging is actually pretty nice. The note breakdown of Artist Number 1 that I was able to find online has the following notes. The top notes are all rose, cloves, raspberry, blackcurrant and cinnamon. The middle notes are patchouli, incense and sandalwood, and the base notes are musk, benzoin and amber. Now I don't find this note breakdown to be very accurate. I'll show you the sprayer in action, then I'll tell you what I pick up from this fragrance. The sprayer is actually very good. And now onto the scent of this thing. Now, because I told you I don't find the note breakdown very accurate because I don't find much of a fruitiness, fruity notes in this fragrance. The opening here is dominated by the combination of rose and incense. Those are the two dominating notes of this fragrance from the opening right to the deep dry down of this thing. I pick up a touch of cinnamon, maybe a bit of spices, and also I pick up a touch of an oud note in here, definitely. It's not medicinal, it's not animalic, it's not dominant, but it's somewhere in the background, and that's from the opening to the actual dry down. The rose note feels kind of fresh, kind of, floral freshness. It doesn't feel like a sweet rose note. And when this thing goes into the dry down, I also pick up a touch of amber, giving this fragrance a little bit of a sweetness, making it a little bit softer compared to the opening. But as I said, the scent of this thing is dominated by the rose and incense combo. I've been enjoying this scent because lately I've been really enjoying fragrances that rely on that rose and incense combo. But this thing is definitely not for everybody. You really need to like a rose and incense in order to enjoy this thing. But the best way that I can describe how this smells is if you are walking into a church, but a real old church. The incense, smell that you get inside that kind of places is really what's comes up to mind when I smell the Artist Number 1. When it comes to how close this is to the original fragrance Portrait of a Lady from Frederic Malle, it's been quite a while since I've smelled Portrait of a Lady for the last time, but definitely this brings similar vibes, and you immediately recognize what this is trying to be if you are familiar with the original scent. But definitely this lacks the quality and lacks the depth. This feels a little bit sharper compared to the original scent, which is to be expected because of the price difference. When it comes to the performance, this is one area where I've been left a little bit disappointed to be honest, because I expected this thing to be a strong performer. Usually fragrances that rely on oud, rose and incense notes, they tend to be quite strong, and this thing initially opens up very strong with very strong projection, but soon goes into a skin scent, and on my skin this has been lasting for about 7 hours with about 1 hour of strong projection. So definitely I've been a little bit disappointed by the performance. When it comes to the price tag, I paid about 25 euros, which is slightly more compared to most Maison Alhambra scents, but still it's an okay deal. And when it comes to versatility, definitely a scent type that's more orientated towards the cold weather. I cannot see myself wearing this in warmer weather, but on the bright side I think this is a scent that's unisex. And on to the second fragrance featured in this video, Fabulo Intense from Maison Alhambra. This one being, of course, a clone of Effin' Fabulous from Tom Ford. You get a black colored box with white accents. The bottle size here is 80 milliliters. It's still concentration is EDP. You open up the box like this. On the bottom part there's also a production date, which is February of 2023. Once you open up the bottle, the box, you're greeted by the bottle, which looks like this. Again, black color with white accents. A plastic cap that's actually a snug fit in this case. There's some Maison Alhambra, logo on the top. The actual packaging and bottle design feels pretty nice, considering the price point of this fragrance, and it's very, very similar to what you get with the original scent. The note breakdown of a Fabulo Intense has the following notes. The top notes are lavender and clarice, the middle notes are bitter almond, vanilla and iris, and the base notes are leather, white woods, cashmere and tonka bean and amber. I'll show you the sprayer in action here. Again, it's a very decent sprayer. And onto the scent of this thing. Now, the main combination of notes in here is the bitter almond and the vanilla. Those two are the strongest notes in this fragrance, but the opening you also get a nice lavender note, and definitely this kind of I don't know how to explain it, like a weedy type of clarice note. That's a bit of that greenness in the opening of this fragrance, a little bit of a freshness, but the strongest notes are here are the bitter almond and the vanilla. When this goes to the dry down, the leather note, it's a suede leather type of note, starts to come up a little bit. Also, this thing becomes a little bit sweeter because the amber starts to kick in, and also the tonka bean that adds a bit of a powderness to the scent of Fabulo Intense. I've been quite enjoying the scent of this fragrance actually, and again, it's not a safe blind buy simply because the combination of bitter almond and vanilla are definitely, that combination is definitely not for everyone. When it comes to the closeness to the original Effin' Fabulous fragrance from Tom Ford, it's actually very, very similar, especially in the air. It smells almost identical. Up close, it's a little bit different. Of course, it lacks a little bit of the quality, and also the leather note that's used in the original fragrance feels a little bit different, but this has been a very, very decent clone scent-wise. When it comes to the performance, Fabulo Intense has actually been again a pleasant surprise for me. I've been getting about 8 hours of performance out of this thing with sort of a moderate projection for up to 2 hours. So performance-wise, I've been pleasantly surprised by Fabulo Intense. When it comes to the price tag, I paid about 20 euros in order to get this thing, which I think is a pretty decent deal considering what you get in return. The quality of the scent, the closeness to the original fragrance, and the performance. And when it comes to the versatility of this thing, again, another fragrance that's more orientated towards the colder months of the year. I think the best time to wear this thing is fall time and early spring. And again, this is another fragrance that I think it's unisex. And on to my final thoughts about the Artist Number 1 and Fabulo Intense, both from Maison Alhambra. The Artist Number 1 is a decently done clone of a Portrait of a Lady, but you need to keep one thing in mind if you are not familiar with the original fragrance. This is not a blind buy worthy fragrance, a blind buy safe fragrance, simply because you really need to enjoy a combination of rose, incense and oud in order to enjoy this thing, because it's very heavy especially on the rose and incense. So if you like rose-based fragrances, you probably end up enjoying the Artist Number 1, but if you don't like rose-based fragrances, then this is definitely not for you. Also, one thing that has been a little bit disappointing for me about this thing is the fact that the performance here is lacking a little bit, because usually fragrances that rely on the rose and incense notes, they tend to be very strong fragrances, and this one was more of an average performer. When it comes to Fabulo Intense, another fragrance that's not safe for blind buying. When it comes to this one, it's because of the combination of bitter almond and vanilla, which I know for a fact that it's not for everybody. But scent wise, it's actually done very nicely. Clone wise, it's also done very, very nicely. It's actually very close to the original fragrance, and this thing has a very, very decent performance. low price tag, and the only drawback of this fragrance, the only con for me, is the bottle size, which is 80 milliliters. So guys, in today's video I showed you two more clone fragrances from the house of Maison Alhambra: the Artist No. 1, a clone of Portrait of a Lady, and Fabulo Intense, a clone of Tom Ford's Effin' Fabulous. I hope that you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like. Also, if you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Stay safe, and I hope that I'm going to see you in my next video.